I'm really excited for this. For those of you that aren't really familiar or super familiar with Commerce Catalyst, we are an e-commerce community. My name's Matt Holman, started a few years ago, just doing events like this, lunches like this. We have a big conference in September, will be our 3rd year. And everything we do is just really trying about connecting everybody, so I hope that you've had a chance to meet some other people, hang out afterwards, meet, and also listen to our amazing panelists. As we kind of get started, I want to take a moment. This amazing lunch that we've had so far has been a huge donation and sponsor from Pretty Damn Quick. I've actually known Pretty Damn Quick for quite a few years, but they've recently established an office here in Utah and have been building out their sales team. If you're not familiar with estimated delivery date solutions on your website, on your store, you should definitely check it out. Dan's going to talk about it a little bit more, but it's something I've seen in the space. I come from logistics and shipping before subscriptions, and when customers know when their product is going to arrive, they have a much more likely chance to actually purchase from you. So, Dan, you want to come up and talk about your special offer? And let's give him a round of applause for lunch, because it's really good.
Hey, everybody, thanks. Yeah, like Matt mentioned, Pretty Damn Quick, we can do a lot of different types of segmentation and A/B testing with your Shopify Plus checkout. Shopify Plus checkout right now is kind of a black box. Not a lot you can do in there. We help open that up, and we can test anything from first-time buyers versus returning buyers, East Coast, West Coast, whether you buy in the morning, afternoon. We can tie in estimated delivery dates, different shipping options. A lot you can do in the checkout to customize the offer for each one of those buyers, with the goal of increasing AOV, conversion, shipping revenue. There's a term that we've kind of created, average revenue per checkout, and that's what we look to increase. And again, it's all backed by data. It's all A/B tested. So the offer we have, if you're on Shopify Plus, come find myself or Hayden, Caleb, we call him DJ Caleb, or Isaac, and we'll buy you and your team. Yeah, stand up so everyone can see. There you go. Great. Yep. Yeah, so if you want to come learn more about PDQ, what we're doing, come say hi for a demo. We'll buy you and your team lunch, or we'll take you out to lunch. Call me crazy. But no, we're stoked to be here. I hope you enjoy lunch, and thanks, Matt.
Yeah, I met their founder, Avi, a few years ago, and I've just loved watching what they're building into the space. It's pretty incredible. So, without further ado, we are going to get started with offers that convert. I'm going to do a brief introduction for our panelists. They're going to spend just a moment it's been one of those days, introducing themselves a little bit more. But right here we have Chris Dayley from SmartCRO. We've got Trevor Crump from Bestie Media. And we've got Kate Branagan from Dime Beauty. Okay, so. You guys go.
All right. Nice to meet you all. I'm Chris Dayley. My company, like he said, is SmartCRO. So I do full website and landing page conversion rate optimization for e-commerce companies. So essentially, the way that I like to describe this to my clients is I am like a website gold miner. I look for what's going to really move the needle when it comes to conversion rates on a website, and then we dig deep. We try to figure out what do your customers need to see in order to buy from you. So that's what I do.
My name is Trevor Crump. I own a company called Bestie Media, like Matt said. We are a full-fledged performance marketing agency, primarily in the D2C space. Lots of marketing agencies out here, especially in Utah. Big difference between us and several others out there is we own e-commerce brands ourselves. So we're e-commerce store owners. So everything we do has a very, very cohesive consulting growth kind of strategy mindset on how we can grow and scale your new customer acquisition while retaining brand retention. And so we run ads, we create ads for you, and yeah, that's kind of it.
And I'm Kate. I work for a company called Dime Beauty Co. I am the digital product lead there, so I manage the end-to-end of the website functionality, our mobile app, and all of our integrations and promotions and things like that.
So Matt asked if I would start off with a question. He's too lazy to be the panel host, so I'll start things off here, I guess. So The topic is offers that convert, and I think a good place for us to start is defining what a funnel is and how brands can use a funnel. I think let's start there, and I think that can start to help us evolve this conversation into things like how to understand your funnel and how to get to know your customer journeys and what kind of offers work. So anyone want to kick that off?
Sure, I can give kind of my definition.
Yeah.
So the way that when I'm thinking about funnels, I'm thinking about where does somebody start their journey with your brand? So where's the first touch point, whether that's an ad, whether that's a social post, whether that's, wherever they're first encountering you, that's kind of the top of your funnel, right? And the goal of the funnel is to slowly work them down to a purchase, right? And so you have progressive touch points with your customers. And so it may be, again, an organic social post is, maybe the very top of the funnel. You're putting out video content, you're putting out whatever it is, right? And that's their first exposure to your brand. They're going to hit them with some sort of an ad that's going to drive them somewhere, right? This is where, when I'm thinking about offers that convert, this is where I think the first big challenge comes in, which is where do you send them, right? Like they have encountered your brand somehow. They're now going to go to where? Your home page, to a landing page, to a product page. How do you decide where to send them, right? So that's kind of the next step in your funnel. And then obviously from there, you want to get them to take the next steps, which are adding a product to the cart, checking out, and then hopefully coming back and purchasing again. So that's when I'm thinking about funnels, that's kind of what I'm thinking of is what are each of the progressive steps a customer needs to take in order to eventually purchase and then continue purchasing from me, right? Anything you guys would add to that?
Yeah, one thing I would add that one thing that I've recognized is I've kind of stopped talking and using the word funnel as much, even though it is a funnel, and I use just more like the idea of a customer journey. I know it's semantics, but it seems, when I think of a funnel, it's harder for me to understand the touch points versus when I think of a customer journey from research to purchase, and if I can figure that out, it helps me a lot more. But one thing that you said, as you say, hey, like the funnel's purpose is meant to get somebody from here down to here. But I think the other key part of a funnel that I think a lot of people forget is the purpose of a funnel is also to get rid of the crap, too. So, like, a lot of times we think of anybody who enters in the funnel is a good customer, but there are we run ads for a living, right? And brands waste so much money running ads just to the wrong people. In fact, it's like the Pareto principle, right? Where it's like 80% of your effort really goes into 20% of the work. Or sorry, did I say that the right way? 80% of your effort only yields like 20% of the actual revenue or whatever it is. So it's how do I get rid of that 80% and really focus on the 20%? So I think that's a key. Not that you weren't saying that, right? But I think that's a key thing to remember with funnels as well. So, anything you'd add? Cool. So let's talk about how to identify a customer journey. I think that could be maybe a really good next step. I've got some thoughts on that. I don't know if you guys have some like. So before we create offers, right? We have to understand like where we're going to go to get the people to see the offer. Correct? Right? So I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on where you want to start. I've got, like I said, I have a couple thoughts there, and then we can keep going.
Why don't you dive in?
Okay. So one thing that I love doing the most when it comes to discovering what a journey is, right? Because the easy way is to say, oh, they saw an ad, they went to my website, and they made a purchase, right? That's how most of us are thinking. Or oh, they saw my organic post, then they came to my website, signed up for my email, and then they made a purchase. Like that's especially in the direct-to-consumer space, like because the purchase cycles are oftentimes much shorter than like if you're in the B2B space. But at the end of the day, it's a lot different than that. And so one of my favorite things to do for brands is I love to build surveys. I'm a big survey junkie, And so what I'll do is anytime somebody is purchasing, I will create what's called a post-purchase survey. And most people use post-purchase. Who here uses post-purchase surveys or has, okay, a decent amount? Most people use post-purchase surveys for attribution data, which is like, hey, how did you first hear about us, you know? Which is great. That can be super, super helpful. But like, at the end of the day, most brands are really using like Meta and Google, and so it's pretty easy to understand where the attribution lies. And so I have found that one of the best ways to use surveys is to start to get to know the journey. So one of the first questions I will ask is, so let's say somebody's buying skincare, right? Let's say somebody's buying skincare over here for Dime. My first question I'm going to ask is, where did you start your research? So I don't want to know where you heard about Dime, right? I want to know, where did you start your research? What platforms, where are you going? Are you looking for influencers, beauty expert? Are you on beauty expert blogs? Are you jumping into Pinterest? You know, are you on YouTube? You know, and so I'm discovering where people are going for that research. And then the next question is, what problems are you trying to solve? And you can maybe you can put that one, don't worry about the order as much. You know, I'm understanding, okay, is it acne? Is it melasma? Is it wrinkles? Yeah, is it, keep going, yeah. So, and then I will start to dive deeper into, okay, how did you first discover Dime? You know, what was the first touch point? Okay, what was the first time you ever heard about Dime? And then the next question would be like, what brought you to our site today? Because sometimes the first touch point isn't always the thing that made you purchase, right? See what I'm doing now? Like I've now said, okay, cool. Let's say 80% of, I'm gonna use a good example of this. We work with anyone know what a Sur-Ron bike is? Sur-Ron, Talaria, E-Moto bikes. We are trying to figure out what their journey is, because that journey is a little bit longer. They're $5,000 purchases. And so we said, hey, we asked these questions and found out that 90% of everyone did their research on YouTube. It wasn't Google, it wasn't anything else. It was, I went to YouTube to figure out more about this. And these guys had no YouTube presence whatsoever, right? And so cool, that's an awesome nugget. And then when we asked, hey, how did you first hear about us? It was like, hey, social ads. Okay, cool, we were crushing that. We were doing that really, really well. Okay, how long did it take you to know about us before you purchased? Oh, it was, a minimum 3 months, maximum around 6 months was kind of the buying cycle. So we start to use this data, and we helped them build out a long-form YouTube content strategy, and also elongated our retargeting windows that helped us better understand performance within those windows. And it's what helped increase their overall revenue by like 40%, just from those two things alone, just because we got to know the journey. So I think that's a huge, huge way to, every brand needs to know that, because you will waste so much money, either not in the right place or in all, or not spending enough in the right place. So sorry, I feel like I just talked a ton.
Kate, are you guys using surveys like that?
No. I think we send out consumer studies on products. So after a customer's had a product for a while, we'll send out a big consumer study and say, please give us, your age range. What did you buy the product for? Are you seeing any results? Can you please give us before and afters, things like that. But we're not asking for customer journey stuff, which I think that actually might be really useful to implement for us.
What tools are you using for your consumer studies? Or do you guys have your own solution that you built?
It's like some survey platform. I don't know what it's called.
Trevor, do you have a go-to platform for these?
Yes, but I own it, so it's it's called Bestie AI. It only works for e-com companies though, because it's a direct plugin to Shopify. But I know Qualtrics has some stuff. I know people use Typeform. I would guess that's probably the direction Dime sits in one of those. Yeah, but yeah. Nice. Yeah. So we understand the journey now. oftentimes your first place that somebody is going to hear about you is going to either be from an ad, it's going to be from an organic post, or it's going to be from some sort of borrowed media, which is like an influencer or content creator talking about you. So now that they're in our journey or funnel, this is kind of where your world starts to sit, and yours, both of you guys'. So let's talk, like, once somebody hits the website, Dime or client or whatever, what are some good things you guys, brands, should be doing at that point?
Okay, you want to go first?
Sure. So for us, if we rebranded, well, not rebranded, but we redid our website not last October, the October before, and we made the move to feature more products on our homepage, and we actually see a really high conversion rate on our homepage. It also gives people a glimpse into what you're offering as well. We also direct people to PDPs where we're trying to bullet point information and not give them the entire brand story on our PDPs, because people want the information that you're giving them, but not in the 12-paragraph story of how you came up with this product. So we've really tried to slim down all of our information to just the most important bullet points, which are like application, like how do you use the product? What are the benefits of the product? What is it supposed to do? Does it work? Here's the before and afters, social proof and things like that are really important for us on our site. And so I think all of those aspects layer into getting somebody to convert on your products.
Okay, so I have a question for you on that. So you were saying you kind of have whittled down your product pages to the most important things. How did you decide what those most important things were to put on those pages?
For us, for skincare brand, it's mostly proof that it works. So before and afters are really big for us. All of our reviews are always really good for us. And then we also post all of our ingredients because we are a clean, natural brand. So if we're going to say that, we have to be very transparent about everything that we're putting in the product. And then we post a lot of images, and we actually started doing this thing on our images where we do more infographics. So we're able to pack a lot more information onto our PDP through an infographic versus another section on the page. So they're not having to scroll down as far to get the information that they're looking for. They can just scroll across.
Very cool. So this is something that's fascinating to me. So when I start working with brands, a lot of times what I'll do two things. First of all, I'll ask the brand, what are your big selling points, right? So there's benefits, there's pain points, there's features, there's different ways that you could describe your product offering, right? Then what I'll do is I'll go and actually plug the website into ChatGPT, and I'll say, summarize this, give me the top 15 value propositions from this website, give me 5 benefits, give me 5 pain points, give me 5 reasons that somebody might buy this product. And it's really interesting, not because I can't get this myself, but because I like to see when the AI scrapes your site, what is it that they're understanding about your product? Because it will sometimes give you this like dummy version that's like, oh, well, that's not exactly what I would have wanted someone to take away about my products. Mm-hmm. And if ChatGPT is thinking that's what my product is, then probably your customers are too. Mm-hmm. But then what I'll do a lot of times is, this is where kind of some of the A/B testing starts to come in. So I did, years back, I did a kind of a 2-step study to figure out what content is going to convert people. So first we started with a focus group. This is further upstream from the surveys that you guys are doing, but we did a focus group. So we got together, prospective buyers for a product, and we showed them a few different landing page designs, and we said, which one would you be most likely to purchase from, right? So they looked at these and they voted, it was like the vast majority voted for version A, right? Then we took those same 3 versions and we did an actual A/B test. So we just split traffic evenly between these 3 pages, and it turned out version A actually was the lowest converting page out of the 3. So there's one thing that I always will tell my clients. Who knows, has anyone heard of the Hawthorne effect before? You guys remember that from college days? So there's this psychological principle called the Hawthorne effect. And what it is when people know they're being observed, they behave differently and they say things differently than they would in their natural environment, right? So if even, there's like user testing that you can do, and you can watch people shop on your site, and they'll say, well, this is kind of confusing. Oh, I clicked on this and I didn't know that, I thought it was clickable or whatever. You get people that are like walking you through their journey. those can be really useful. But I always tell my clients, there's a caveat there. These people know they're being observed. They are not going to behave like a normal customer. So when it comes to kind of the content you put on a product page or on a landing page or any kind of offer, what I always say is you take that list that you generate from ChatGPT, you take that list that you brainstormed, and then you kind of organize it into an A/B test. So you say, okay, look, I'm just going to create a simple A/B test. There's all kinds of tools you can use for this. There's a Shopify tool called Elevate that's a pretty easy to use tool, fairly cheap. And I'm going to create 3 different versions of this page, and on one of them I'm going to highlight benefits, one of them I'm going to highlight pain points, or maybe one of them I'm going to highlight how to use the product, another one I'm going to highlight social proof. And then let's just test them. Let's see what the customers actually want, right? Because I can all day tell you what I think your customers are going to want to see on the page. But again, going back to that whole like focus group, sometimes our customers don't even know what they want. And so you got to actually put it, to the test and see what works. So there's my soapbox for a minute.
No, I like that. Another way you can put some of those things to the test, because oftentimes you need, you're obviously optimizing for conversions, But there's other ways you can put some of those things to the test as well. You can put those at the top of the journey. You can test some of those features, benefits in your ad strategy as well. So I love doing that. But sometimes what draws somebody in isn't always the thing that makes somebody purchase. So there can be some false positives. But at the end of the day, the whole goal is to say, okay, I want to get the right people at the cheapest cost to my site, and then I want to get those people to convert at the highest rate possible. So one thing I think of all the time, so there's really, I don't know why I'm saying this, but this seems like a right time to say this. At the end of the day, there's really only 4 ways for you as business owners or marketers to drive more revenue, okay? Number 1 is distribution, which is traffic. So, and that's best understood, like we said, we understand the top of the journey. So if it's organic, that's the best way to get distribution. If it's ads, if it's emails, whatever. So number 1 is distribution. If you get distribution, theoretically you will start to get more sales. Now there's an argument you can make that you're getting the wrong distribution. Don't fight me on that. I get that, right? So distribution is number 1. Number 2 is your average order value, or the average amount of money the customer is spending with you at a purchase, right? So if that's $50 and you get it from $50 to $100, you just doubled your revenue, right? You've got the conversion rate, right? That's the 3rd way. So how do I get people to buy more frequently? So for every 100 users, and let's say I've got a 2% rate, that's 2 people that purchase for every 100 people that come, right? How do I get that to 3? And I just increased it by 50%. And the 4th way is, how do you get those people to come back? That's it. That's the beauty of marketing to me. It's a 4-step process. And now each one of those steps are intricate and fun, but let's talk about, maybe there's a couple of those things in the middle, right? AOV. I know we all kind of, back and forth, we chatted, we shared notes back and forth, but let's talk about AOV, ways to increase AOV, and maybe ways to increase your conversion rate. You guys like that? Yeah. Any thoughts?
So an interesting thing that we've noticed for Dime actually is that our AOV on our mobile app is always about $20 higher than on our website. And those are our most loyal returning customers. Obviously, if it's in your phone, we're right there. That's free space essentially for us to get you every time, because push notifications don't cost us anything.
Right.
So in that sense, we tend to give our app customers better perks, like early access to sales, app-only discounts, and things like that, because they convert so much better for us and at a higher conversion rate.
Very cool. I like that. How often does a new customer buy in-app? Is it usually they buy on the .com and then they'll download it, and it becomes a bigger retention conversion rate?
Yeah, we always are trying to funnel people to our app after, if they purchase on the site. Super, super smart.
Which is also the journey also, by the way, goes much more beyond the first time purchase, which is a super important thing to note. So
what things did you guys do either on the app or the website side of things to try to, like, have you guys played around with things to try to improve AOV, and what has worked or what hasn't?
We actually just removed the buy with Shop Pay off of our single SKUs on the website to try to boost AOV. So buy with Shop Pay is now only available on our larger bundles, because the thought is it's a one click and then you check out. So if somebody's one click checking out on a $50 product, that's going to bring down AOV. But if they're one click checking out on a $150 bundle, that's going to bump AOV. We also do a lot of upselling in checkout.
Has that worked, by the way?
I'll let you know.
Okay. That's a way cool, like those. That's a super cool hypothesis, I think.
And then we do a lot of upselling. So there's an upsell in the cart. We usually feature a new product in the cart as well as an upsell. And then we upsell in checkout and also on the thank you page. Obviously, those don't convert at the best rate. They're not our like money makers, but anywhere that you can upsell somebody a $10, $15 product, you might as well.
So I'll challenge that a little bit. And so I had a client last year in the health supplement space, selling powders and whatnot. And their like company goal was to increase AOV, and they had just some arbitrary number they had picked. They're like, oh, we want to get a $200 AOV or whatever it was. And so they had a bunch of initiatives that they started that was like, okay, we want to increase AOV. So let's do this and this and this. Let's add upsells to the cart. Let's add upsells to checkout. Let's add, a post-purchase discount thing. So they added all these things, right? With the hypothesis being that if you add just a bunch of cross-sells or upsells, that you're going to increase AOV. So I came in and I just said, okay, before we run these, like before you just roll these out, let's just A/B test them. Let's just see what the result is when we do these things. And the interesting thing was about half of the things that they were planning on rolling out actually decreased AOV, like inexplicably, right? So half of them worked really well. But one of the things that I realized was we had these assumptions that like if you just put product in front of people, they're going to buy it. Right, and the truth of the matter was, if you put product or cross-sell offers in the wrong place, especially when you get lower in the funnel, like once somebody's added a product to their cart, they're kind of on this track to convert, right? And so there is a certain percentage of customers that if you take them off that path, they're gone, right? Like now they were about to buy, but now they are getting distracted with real life. They are, whatever, they're in traffic and they're honking at someone, they put away their phone and now they're gone, whatever. You had a very limited window to convert them. And so sometimes when you introduce those cross-sells later in the funnel, they don't work. And so I do think it's important now to test those. And if you have rolled those out and tested them and they work, then great. And sometimes you want to go all in on those things, right? Like I have one client that does these like mystery cross sells, and it works super well where you don't actually even know what the product is. It's like get a mystery phone case, right? You don't know which one it will be. We're just going to grab one out of our warehouse that we have stuff, inventory of, and people love those. People add those in like crazy, and it's like $15 add-on, right? So those kinds of things can work really well. But they don't always work, right? And so that's where my cautious remark always is something that works for Dime may not work for your brand. Something that works for your brand may not work for Dime. And so you always want to like test these out and don't just assume, oh, we want to increase AOV, so let's add cross-sells, right?
The other thing that can be done as well is it's not just cross-sells and upsells, but you can just build bundles on your website. I know that sounds super basic, but I remember there was a company here in Utah that was selling diaper bags, and I was a CMO over there, and they at the time had an AOV of, it was like $150 or something like that. And they had created enough products that any new mom would have wanted, from like a bottle bag to a pacifier case to a diaper change, a pad. Yeah, a pad and a clutch and all this stuff. And all together, if you would have bought it a la carte, it would have been like $300 or something like that. If somebody would have just said, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this. And so we said, hey, let's just, we're seeing people buy these all the time, especially for like baby showers. Why don't we just put it all together, and instead of it being like $320 a la carte, let's make it $250. you know? And listen, we didn't get a ton of people. That didn't become like a number one selling product. But within the first 30 days, our AOV went from like 150 to 180. So that's the beauty of, like, a lot of people think, they'll think that, okay, this product, the bundle needs to sell and become a bestseller. It's not actually that. It just needs to start to get a little traction to increase the overall AOV. And that right there increases our brand revenue by, I can't remember what it ended up doing, you know, but it was such a super quick and easy thing to do. The other thing I want to make a note of when it comes to bundling, there are a lot of people who get afraid to bundle because they think that it can devalue your brand. It eats into what a lot of people get really hyper-focused on, which is profit margin, which is a percentage. So instead of me making 80% profit margins, I make 60 now. That doesn't matter. What matters is the profit margin dollar, right? So if my profit margin dollar was $100 before, and now it's 120 with a 20% decrease in profit margin, it doesn't matter. You're making more overall profits. So that's just one thing to know. I struggled with that like a ton in my early bundle building, because I was like, we're eating into our margins, you know? And so
I think that's also important, though, to make sure that you're bundling the right products together too, and seeing what people are purchasing a la carte already. And then if you can solve that need and give them 10% off, they're definitely going to repurchase the bundle more often than the a la carte products.
Totally. Any other thoughts on AOV tests?
Well, just on the bundle concept again, you guys have, I'm sure, seen this. You're either doing this with your brands or you've seen this on websites. I am the most susceptible to the whole like unlockable bundle gifts, right? So there's one website that I buy apparel from fairly frequently, and I'm such a sucker for this, even if it's something I don't even want. It's like, you know, at $150, I unlock a free pair of underwear. I don't even want their underwear, but it's like, well, freak, if I buy $30 more, what if I want it, you know? And then at $250, I get a free t-shirt, whatever it is, right? Like, so those kinds of things, those little like incentives or carrots that you can dangle, that's another way of bundling. If you don't want to pop everything into a single bundle and offer a discount, you can instead take a product that you may not be selling a lot of, right? You just have inventory piled up, and say, what if I give away this, you know, AirPod case that I'm not selling, right? And now everybody wants it all of a sudden because it's free, right? So that's just another approach that I've seen work really well. You can either do it in tandem with set bundles or do that instead. Right?
Yeah, gift with purchases have been a big incentive for us this year, and every sale that we do a gift with purchase with outperforms anything else.
That's awesome. Yeah, we see the same thing.
Yeah.
The another kind of example, you shared something that sparked my thoughts on a test we ran with a client. Is we found that we had an apparel client who they had one hero product. So they sold it was an outdoor apparel company, and they had tons of products, from pants to shirts to hoodies to hammocks to whatever, you know. But they have one product that they sell an insane amount of. It's 90% of their sales. And so they would do these discounts. They would go 20% off site-wide or 50% off site-wide during Black Friday or whatever. And we said, hey, what if you, instead of doing that, because these people, everyone buys these pants. Like, you can't get pants like this anywhere else. You don't need to discount the pant. But what if you create an offer that is buy one, get one 50% off? And that was a massive thing that took their AOV from like $90 to $125, because now people are buying two of these pairs of pants that they were gonna buy no matter what. It's almost like a problem solution style product that isn't, you know? And so you don't oftentimes need to discount a lot of problem solution products, but you can create unique offers like that gets them to buy more of something that they were already going to purchase, and that's a huge profit driver. The reason why I love this, by the way, the reason why I love this topic right now is, like, we are in the most strange macroeconomic time we've been in since COVID. No, I will take that back. Probably since iOS 14.5. So you had COVID, and then you had iOS 14.5. Does anybody still have trauma from that, right? where it was just like, I used to acquire customers for this and now I can't, so we're in a tough spot, right? Is everybody getting impacted by tariffs? Anyone getting impacted by tariffs right now? I'm seeing nods, and yeah, it's like, so how do we get more profits to us? And so that's why this conversation is super critical. So what about conversion rate, right? So we said we got distribution, AOV, conversion rate. What are some thoughts? I know a lot of these things we talked about can increase conversion rate, but
Kate, any things that you guys have done that have impacted conversion rates positively or negatively? How was you said you redesigned the site. Did that go well?
No, not initially, actually. And we did it in tandem with, we did it at the same time as we stopped doing as much influencer marketing. So we really saw a big hit to our conversion rate at that time. And it was kind of difficult to tell whether it was influencer marketing that we stopped spending on, or if it was the site, or if it was a combination of the two. We've seen it come back. We sit now on average around a 4%, higher if it's a sale time. Obviously, if there's a discount, people are more likely to purchase. So for us, we are trying to be not as promo heavy and more intentional with our promotions, since they do inflate our conversion rate so much. We're just trying different offers. So we're trying things like a new referral offer. Instead of $15, we're trying a 30%, give 30%, get 30%. We're trying so we can get new customers that way, as that doesn't cost us as much as running an ad. We're trying to use TikTok Shop and do partnerships with TikTok creators to get visibility there. Just things like that, where we're trying to get more visibility with new customers to help bring that conversion rate up across the board, instead of just during like a sale time.
Awesome.
Well, one thing I will say is, if you're wanting to improve conversion rates on your site, don't do a website redesign. That is like the go-to for so many businesses. And my experience is that more than half the time, redesigns either perform flat or worse than your existing site does. Part of the reason is, and I was talking to somebody just before we started today, we were having a discussion about this a couple weeks ago, and part of the problem, and I think this is like, you get sucked into this no matter what. It's like, well, we need to retheme because our current theme sucks and we have all these limitations and we want all these neat new features, so we're going to retheme. While we're at it, we might as well just redesign too, right? Like, if we're going to have to rebuild everything, let's build it the way we want it. So there's two inherent problems here. Problem number one is you think you need all these new features, okay? You go to some competitor's website that just built a brand new site, and they have all these flashy new things, and you're like, oh, that's sweet, I have to have that. I need that, right? Number one, you probably don't need that. Chances are they haven't tested anything on their site, and they don't actually know what's working and what's not working. So you might be totally copying something that sucks. Number two, you're also lumping in a bunch of other changes that you also don't have any data around, right? So it's like, while we're at it, I think we need a bigger font size because, 65-year-olds can't read 14-point font, so let's change it all to 18-point font. And shoot, let's change our colors, and let's change, I don't even like the layout of our product page. There's this cool other thing, look what Nordstrom's doing, let's copy them. Whatever it is, right? You're gonna just start lumping in a bunch of changes. And so my brother worked for a big company here in Utah. 2 years ago, they spent over $1 million on this big redesign. And like 11 months, like everybody was in on this redesign. It was like heads down, that's all they're talking about, all they're doing for about a year. They roll out this new site design, 20% drop in conversion rates. So they're like, crap. So they revert back to the old site. Then they're like, oh, wait, I think I know what it was. It was this and this and this. So they take their hit list of things, they go and make some changes, they launch it, still a 20% decrease in conversion rates. So they're like, well, shoot, what do we do? So then what they did is they started piecing apart the redesign, and they said, okay, let's test this on a page-by-page, maybe in a feature-by-feature basis. Let's test the new navigation against the old navigation. Let's test the flashy new hero banner we have on the home page against the old hero banner. Let's test our new cart functionality against our old cart functionality. Guess what they found out? 8 out of 10 of the changes that they made on the new site sucked. They were terrible. They were drastically decreasing conversion rates. 2 out of 10 of the changes were actually crushing it. And you would never have known because the whole site tanked, right? And so once they started breaking this apart and testing it a little by little, they were able to find out what exactly do our customers want, right? So I always advise businesses against doing like a wholesale redesign unless there is a totally unavoidable reason to do so. And if there is a totally unavoidable reason, like our theme isn't supported anymore and we can't update it, change to a new theme and use the exact same design. And then start updating your design one piece at a time. Don't do 50 things all at once.
And you don't always need a custom theme,
Yes.
a custom built theme.
Yeah.
I will die on that hill.
I agree. Yeah, sometimes the more simple it is, especially if you're a Shopify store, like Shopify's done enough research that these themes are working really well and oftentimes converting really well. So I have a question for you. So this is my beef with CRO, okay?
Let's go.
And I believe in it, so, because I do it sometimes. But my beef is, how do you control all of the variables, especially in a D2C setting? And I say D2C because Donald Trump sneezes, right? And sales go down.
Yeah.
Right? Like, Donald Trump doesn't sneeze, and the big project management tool that's going to cost you $100,000 that takes 6 months to, work around to see if it's going to work doesn't impact you, right? So that's been one of my biggest challenges. What do you do? Because the question is, how do you control variables?
Yeah.
Both controllable and macroeconomic that you cannot.
Right. So the challenge here, like you're saying, is your conversion rates are going to fluctuate no matter what you do. And I've worked with so many businesses that are like, no, our conversion rate never fluctuates. Like, we've been steady over the last X amount of time, right? And as soon as you say that, I guarantee you're going to have a dip in conversion rates, and it's going to happen, right? So no matter what business you are, you're going to have conversion rates are going to fluctuate constantly. So what you need to do is you need to use an A/B testing tool. So this is not an A/B test. Launch the new site and compare conversion rates to last week. That's not an A/B test, right? That's like launching and praying. So what you need to do is you need to use an A/B testing tool. I already mentioned one. There's Elevate, there's VWO, there's Convert. There's all kinds of tools out there that you can use. What this allows you to do is you have a control version of the site that stays exactly the same, and then you test all your variations against that control. So that way, your conversion rates are going to fluctuate while you're testing these things, but they'll all fluctuate together, right? So you'll see, well, what did our baseline fluctuate to? And then what did our test variations fluctuate to? That way you can tease out those macroeconomic factors. So that's absolutely a valid question. And if you do testing right, then that's not a problem.
Sure. And probably don't do it during like your peak season time, or
you actually want to do the most during peak season.
Okay.
But you want to make sure that what you're testing, if you're testing pricing and you're also running 30% off, that's not going to work, right? So you got to be careful about what you do.
Makes sense. Cool. Would you add anything to what he said? I know I asked him primarily because that's his world, but anything you'd add to that before we jump into Q&A?
If you test multiple things at the same time against the site, make sure that you're testing different things at the same time. Like, so you're testing like your add to cart button. Don't test the add to cart button here with the same thing. Like, test different things so you can get accurate data on those things.
Yep, absolutely.
Sold. All right, Q&A.
So all of this is great for established brand. What would be your advice to a brand that's wanting to launch in a month or two, brand new?
Okay, best practices. Give me 5 best practices. When you're starting out, what do you worry about and not worry about for CRO or funnels, models, and
I mean, the biggest thing every new brand is going to struggle with is the very first principle, which was distribution. Okay, so I know this goes somewhat out of funnels and whatever, but depending on if you have funding or cash flow, or if you're bootstrapping or whatever, you have to find a way to get people to your website. And it is the most there's nothing more expensive than getting people to your website and it not converting, right? So my first thing that I tell everybody, we're in a day and age where everybody's brands look the exact same, in my opinion, especially here in Utah. We all look the same. And the reason for it is because we look at the darlings who are doing the best, and we're like, okay, hey, make my website like theirs. Oh, hey, let's make our ads like theirs. So if you're starting a new brand, do everything that you can to zag while everyone is zigging. You have to find a way to stand out, and I would document what I was doing. I'm a huge believer in organic content. I think there's nothing better to supplement your ad strategy and your ad distribution. There's nothing that will decrease your CAC, more than having an amazing organic strategy. And so if I were you, if I were starting a new brand today, I would put so much time and effort into creating organic content that people wanted to view. Does that make sense?
One other thing that I'll say, so the one thing that I would say is top of my list to A/B test when you launch a new brand is prices. It actually cracks me up that so many brands are scrambling right now to increase their prices when they never even tested different prices in the first place. Most brands just say, okay, here's our costs and here's how much we think it's going to cost to acquire, so let's just mark it up 20% from that, right? They'll just kind of put their finger up and hope that the price they pick is a good one. So if you're starting a new company and you got new product, test 3 different price points right out the gate. And so Elevate on Shopify, you can do price testing on there. It's actually fairly simple. And say, okay, the minimum price I could sell this for is $50. Okay, so I'm gonna have one of the prices be $50, one be $70, one be $130. Throw out something outlandish, and just see how the customers respond at those different price points. You might be shocked at how much price elasticity there is in some industries.
And how much conversions can go up when you don't realize it.
Sometimes you can double prices and increase conversion rates.
Well, that's what Peloton did.
Yeah.
They didn't take off until they literally doubled the price of the exact same thing.
Yeah, all of a sudden you're premium.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys have talked a ton about A/B testing and in line with the CRO stuff, but at what point, what kind of traffic do you need to really have statistically significant A/B testing? Especially one of his points about new brands that are launching new things, you might not have a huge volume of traffic, and you're spending what limited capital that you might have to drive some level of traffic. Where does it make sense to have A/B testing, and what kind of traffic volume do you need to really make good decisions?
Yeah, I kind of go against the general CRO industry here, where there's a lot of snooty CRO people that are like, oh, you got to have 1 million visitors a month, whatever it is, some dumb number. I'm more of the opinion that you should just start testing wherever you're at, and maybe a test needs to run for 3 months to get good data, right? And that's fine. You don't have to be Amazon. Amazon ran over 100 A/B tests on Prime Day alone. Started and finished 100 A/B tests in one day, right? Nobody's gonna do that. You don't have to do that. So with a price test, it's launch your product with 3 different price points and let it run for 3 months. And what I'm concerned about when you're a younger business and you're lower traffic, you're looking for big gains. You're not looking for something that's gonna slightly move the needle a little bit. And so bigger gains get statistical significance faster. So you wanna test big things, look for big gains, let it run for as long as it needs to run.
You could also, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong here, once again, this is not 100% my world, but you can, rather than do an A/B test, do a split test.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Do you know the difference between the two? So A/B is you're running 100 people split. The A/B, one goes to A, one goes to B. The split is you're doing it more in periods of time. I'm running traffic to this page for 30 days because I don't have enough, and then the next 30 days I'm doing here. It's a little bit less accurate sometimes, but sometimes that's the way to do it. Anything else? 2 questions?
I have a whole slew of questions, Trevor. 3 of them to be exact, but so, Chris, you talked about ChatGPT in the beginning, throwing things into ChatGPT and seeing what spits out. Because a lot of customers, they go to Google, they're like, okay, what is brand X known for? Or why is brand X better than Y, whatever? Google is still a main driver of a lot of traffic, a lot of product research starts. ChatGPT is
I actually just created a piece of content around this today. So if you guys, this is not meant to be a plug, but if you follow me on social media, so ChatGPT is releasing Shops, ChatGPT Shops. Have you guys heard of this? They just announced it at the end of April. So essentially, when you ask it a question to solve a problem, it's going to put very similar to what the product recommendations Google does. But instead of it being SEO driven and paid driven, it's going to be sentiment driven. And so what that means is you got to ask yourself the question: if somebody, let's say you fix anti-aging, right? If somebody if somebody were to ask ChatGPT, what is the best thing for a 58-year-old woman who's wrinkling quicker than I want to? What's the best solution for me? And I want clean ingredients. You have to ask yourself the question, is there any reason ChatGPT 1 wouldn't do that? Okay? And if the answer is whatever it is, then you got to figure out a way to optimize your content to do that. The second thing is ChatGPT, they came out and said, so I think his name is Adam Fry, he's the head of ChatGPT, head of product. He's the one who came out and said, ChatGPT is going to focus less on the clean ingredients, right? It says clean ingredients, anti-aging, it hits all the keywords, and it's going to focus more on what human beings are saying about it. So getting your product in other people's hands and having them talk about it. So ChatGPT will be scraping social media posts now, and Google's not doing that. All right, at least to that capability, and it's going to reference a lot of reviews as well. So you need other people if you want to win in ChatGPT. Yes, make sure the experience, make sure it all works, but it's going to focus on does the product actually solve the problem versus who's paying the most, okay, or who did the best SEO work. It's going to focus on does it solve the problem and are people talking about it. That answer your question? Cool.
Well, one other thing I'll add there is there's two pieces here, right? There's optimizing for the actual AI program. Then there's utilizing AI on your shop, right? So there's a lot of tools that you can use right now to, the simplest way is, AI chatbots on the site, right? There's also more advanced features. I've got a client right now that's a pretty big company here in Utah that they've started adding AI product recommendations on their site. They've added AI feature displays, so it's a little box that's on the product page, and it will populate features based on what you have, browsed so far. However, what I will say is the jury is still out or not out, whatever it is, on whether it works or not. So we're actually in the process of testing removing some of these features from the site, and some of the early data suggests that it is not helping customers. So what you want to do is you want to carefully roll out some of these things, and then again, kind of test the functionality to see, okay, if I roll out an AI chatbot, is it actually helping people purchase, or are they just like dinking around, seeing what stupid things they can get it to say, right?
Do we have time for one more? Or?
No, we're a little bit over right now.
Okay. Sorry, guys.
Okay, let's give them a round of applause. If you do have more questions, they're going to be hanging out for a little bit. I think so. So you definitely please come up and say hi to them. And also, as a quick reminder, if you are interested in finding out more about the estimated delivery date solution with Pretty Damn Quick, the guys who bought our lunch, they're right over here. Guys, hands up. Go get lunch for you and your team and find out how they can help improve your conversions as well. We've got our big conference is on September 5th. This leads to the ticket page right now. We've been slowly increasing prices. If you were in the Slack, you got the $25 ticket offer last month. But they're going to be going up a little bit more as we get closer and closer to the event. We're going to be having more sessions like this, workshops, keynotes. It's going to be downtown, so hope to see you out there. And if I see a camera up, but I'm going to go, sorry, I'm going to go like if you're not a member of our Slack or want to get on our newsletter to get notified about events, we've got this here too. And again, a big thank you to also Silicon Slopes for letting us host here, for everybody coming, and hope to see you at the next one. Thank you.